Hey everybody, have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Do you have friends, families, neighbors, loved ones, associates, colleagues telling you, hey dude, you got to do this, you got the personality for it? Well, if that's you, stick around. We have Adam Adams with us today from Southwest Denver in the house. See you in a few. Hello, everybody. Jeff Mason and Adam Adams here with SimpleBiz360 podcast. Welcome, Adam, from the Denver area. How you doing?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Oh, very good, man. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself. AAA, is that okay to call you that? Or
It is.
all right,
yeah.
All right.
Everyone seems to call me AAA. My initials are Adam A. Adams. So everybody just kind of gravitates that way. Either that or Adam squared. But originally from Utah, I live in Denver now. I've gotten into mountain biking. That's one of my favorite things. Business-wise, back in college, my stepdad said I basically had to start a business and I had to start real estate investing. So I did that in 2005 before I had graduated college in 2008. But just focused on doing what he said was important. And so I started a couple of little businesses. One of them didn't do so well in 2008, 2009. I'll be honest. But since then, kind of grown a little bit of a real estate portfolio, and the business that I run now supports podcasters. Nice. So we just edit and market podcasts for other people. The team's got to 32 strong and growing. So that's a little bit about me.
That's great. That's great. Well, welcome aboard. We're going to have some fun today. Everybody, if you want to subscribe on YouTube, lower right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a little favicon there. Just hover over it. You can get in there. We're on 28 listening platforms, and we're going to post Adam's URLs and everything, his connectivity as well. He's got a podcast. We're going to kind of cross-reference both podcasts on his platforms and ours, but we'll have everything in the show notes. So we are really excited today. We got Dietz and Maddie on the boards, Half Coast Studios, St. Louis, Missouri, coming to you for show 118. So we're excited today. So Adam, you're from Utah, and is that where you grew up, or did you grow up some other place?
Yeah, I grew up in Utah. Okay. I will say not because of Army brat or anything like that, but we moved a little bit. So I've lived in Illinois and Kentucky and a couple other places, but really focused, for the most part, stayed in Salt Lake City area and graduated from Davis High. Okay,
so you're right in Salt Lake City, Park City, not too far away from you, right? And yeah, a little familiar with it. Used to go out there, and my wife's involved in Young Living, which they have their farms down in central Utah down there.
Yeah, right off of I-15.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know it. I think it's Mona, I think is the name of the town, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so exciting. Well, glad to have you. And so did you grow up with a big family, competitive, or, inner household thing going on, or what?
I've always been competitive. And interestingly enough, being born in the middle of Utah, is actually randomly born on a polygamous colony in the middle of nowhere, Utah. Wow. And so technically, when you say, do you have a big family? I actually have 20 brothers and sisters. It's kind of crazy. But as far as like my immediate family with my mom and stepdad, there was three of us. And so I would say didn't really grow up with all of the other brothers and sisters or half brothers and sisters, but one full-blooded sister, and then my half brother Bo, who he and I go mountain biking and jeeping as often as we can, skiing, snowboarding. So
that's awesome. Well, you're out in that part of the country, Southwest Denver, that just right now, which is just so conducive to outdoor activities and sports. And yeah, well, that's awesome. So you big family, big reunions and when holidays when you guys get together, I imagine. But so sticking on that theme, going to kind of zoom up to your business endeavors. And one of the things I noticed from looking at your profile and looking at you had a past podcast as well, but you were in what you call multifamily syndications in real estate. It's a kind of a new term to me. I don't, and I'm not in real estate, but can you elaborate on that a little bit? And what were you involved in at that point?
Yeah. So I started a podcast a long time ago called Creative Real Estate Podcast. I sold the CRE, Creative Real Estate Podcast, about a year and a half ago. The whole premise around it was that you don't have to put any limits on yourself. Your credit score doesn't matter. How much money you have in the bank doesn't matter. You can use OPM, which we call other people's money. And actually, the people that are investing with teams like ours, they are in a better position because they're utilizing OPT, other people's time. Yeah. They've got the money. They don't have to do anything. They just actually invest. And so there's a few ways to do it. You could buy like one small single family house or a duplex or something, and maybe one person might put in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 or something like that. And you kind of run the show and they kind of make a return, right? Of course, you got to think about doing it appropriately with securities law, because taking someone's money, if they expect a return, you just got to do it appropriately. But there's all sorts of levels. When you were talking about syndication, that was a level that I was really afraid of. I was like, wow, like I would be closing on something that was a $20 million property, like one apartment community that was 20 million, and I would raise $6 million from other people as my 30% down payment. And they said, yeah. And I said, I'll try it. Let's see what it's like. Yeah. And so we built a small-ish portfolio. It sounds big because it's $100 million worth, you know, but it was 7 properties. And we in particular were managing about 4 of those. And it's something that's kind of cool. The easiest way to like explain it to someone is that when you're investing in Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola went public and you are a passive investor. You technically own ownership and shares of what will happen at Coca-Cola. It's a little bit different. We go private. So we do what's called a private placement memorandum, where we basically fill out these documents that tell everybody anything that could go wrong. And then once they have those and have read them, we can actually take their money and put it into this deal where we'll basically be Coca-Cola, or our apartment building will be Coca-Cola. And there will be LPs, or limited partners, where they're passive investors only. Right. And GPs, where they're general partners, where they're running the show, and they don't always have, you don't have to put any of your own money in these bigger properties to make them work. It's kind of a cool thing. We did a few of them, and we've sold most of them since then.
Wow. So from beginning to end, how many years did that occupy of your time and effort?
For syndication specifically, where we were doing larger apartments, it started in 2016, and we still own a couple. We're not really looking for a new property right now because we're not sure what's happening with the market. And so we just may as well wait. Yeah. If we knew that the market was just going to be good, we would keep doing it. But yeah, maybe four years of hard work got us to about $100 million.
Wow. Well, that's very cool. Well, I've just a term I've never heard. I've never really understood that. So thank you for explaining that for our audience. And that kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason I wanted to kind of ask that question is it seems like that kind of got you into the podcast genre. And I noticed maybe your last show, if I'm not mistaken, might have been a year ago or so on that particular show. But you obviously got exposed to podcasting there. Was it with that show, CRE, that you got excited about, going into the podcast support business?
Yeah, I started by just launching my own podcast, and it was really slow moving until I started doing a few things to kind of market it, and it blew up, and it got ranked in the top 1% of the world. And I was just so happy about it. And a lot of my friends were asking me, hey, I want to start a podcast. How did you do it? And so I helped a few people. My main business at the time was just real estate. And so I was not charging for it, but I just thought, I'll help you. But a bunch of my friends, they ended up getting ranked as well, and even had more listeners than I did because we launched it a little bit better. Yeah. And I was in this mastermind group, and I recommend it to anybody who hears about a mastermind group. If you vetted them and it sounds legit, it'll probably support you. It'll probably help grow your business. But I was in this group, and they kept saying every time somebody talked about podcasting, my eyes would light up. I would get excited and I would start pouring into people and I would geek out on all the details that they needed to do in succession. And my coach ended up saying, Adam, you need to start a podcast business. I could push so many people to you. I know you know what you're doing. You may as well start. So in July of 19, after him just kind of really pouring into me, I said, I'll start. We'll start doing some editing. We'll start helping people launch their podcasts, make sure that they get it ranked in the top percentages in the world. And it's been just a fun growth. But in 2020, with COVID and us not knowing what was going to happen with like real estate, it really made me want to pour more into the podcasting agency. So that's how I mentioned before, we got up to 32 clients and we're hiring 4 more this week. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that is great. That is
32 employees.
32
I said the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Higher. Yeah.
All right. That's a big team. I mean, that's a great success story. So, your current business, what is you have a podcast of one name and then a business under another, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah. The Podcast on Podcasting is the name of our show. And I just wanted it to be simple and easy for somebody to find if they're looking for a podcast about podcasting. So they would literally just quickly be able to find us. The company is Grow Your Show. I was able to find the domain and get a fairly good deal on it. He wanted $12,000 on it, but I got it much lower. But Grow Your Show is the name of the company, growyourshow.com. And then the podcast is The Podcast on Podcasting.
Yeah. Yeah. And very cool. I tripped over there and looked at both sites a little extensively, listened to a couple podcasts. And, just to give anyone an idea out there, you're kind of, one of your shows was, questions as content, right? And I mean, we're always looking in the podcast, I'm sure much like you, the creative process on a podcast for me is the most exhilarating. I mean, I love coming up with a show idea and theme. I keep it closely tethered to my book, and that's been my compatibility factor. So I wrote a book, and it's got 255 tools, and the podcast kind of marries up with that book. But still, you're taking a run, and all of a sudden your mind gets flooded with some ideas. Oh, I got to get home and hit the computer keyboard and make sure I capture that idea. That's going to be, for a show. And the next time I sit down and record a bunch of them. And so, it's just really, to me, that creative process is the most fun. For you, as a podcaster, is that the most fun? Is that the area you find most exhilarating?
I would say my favorite part is actually supporting the podcaster one-on-one. I like when they ask the question and I get to come up with a plan that's going to be able to solve a problem, and they get excited. They're like, I've never heard of that before. I never knew that would work. And that's my favorite part, is the actual consulting, like with sitting in the same room or on Zoom with a client. I enjoy the creative process. I think that it's also really beneficial for our business, like to grow our own company, right? By putting out regular content. So I wouldn't say that it's absolutely my favorite, but I know that it's important and I do have fun with it. Yeah. I do enjoy doing it.
So the podcast that you actually run and deliver, that is really supporting a lot of that. It seems to me supports an invitation to grow your own show, or supports the things you do on growyourownShow.com. Is that correct?
Yes, 100%. Okay. And I believe that for most people, if they're thinking about growing their business, their podcast doesn't have to have their business name or their personal name attached to it necessarily. But I have seen with our clients and my own show as well, that the show is kind of like at the top of the funnel to build the awareness for the company and to get people to be able to get to know who I am and what type of content that we have. So it absolutely works hand in hand, and any business owner out there would be more successful by building that funnel. And a podcast is one of the best because it's a super growing platform right now, where the listener base is just growing each and every single year. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's, it was something to me. I never thought I would do it. And as I'm going through the editing process on my book, my editor says, you have to come out with a podcast to augment the book. And I I really hadn't thought about it, but I just love to share, and I love to help. Much like you like the consulting part of it. I get really jazzed up when I'm able to make a breakthrough with somebody and give them just one simple tool that can help change their business activity, business results, and the most importantly, customer satisfaction from my end. So yeah, I get, so when, I really started thinking about it, I said, wow, I do have to, get into this and do it. And then when I went to Half Coast Studios here, they suggested that because YouTube has such a strong, big search engine, it's one of the most sought after search engines, to, go there first right out of the gate. So what I thought was going to be an audio experience turned into be an audio visual, and, certainly happy that we've been able to do that. And these guys do a nice job on delivering a good quality product too. So, yeah, exciting. So now, did your actual podcast start after your business, or did it start at the same time?
Okay. I was like, I don't know which one started first. Technically, Grow Your Show.
Okay.
Was a rebrand of the company. Okay. So it used to be My Podcast. That was what we started back in July of 2019. And so the podcast has been out for coming up on a year. Okay. But the business, we've been going for a couple of years. So I would have to say that I started the podcast in order to grow the business that was growing just slowly on its own.
Okay. So if someone listening out there wants to consider using your services and get involved with you, what's the easiest way for them to go about, getting onboarded into your fold of services?
Well, the easiest thing is we have a discovery call, which just is a free call that we decide if we're a good fit for each other. So we find out what are their goals, what are they looking to do, and if we can support that. Okay. So they can find that at growyourshow.com, and there's just a button that schedules a discovery call.
Yep.
And if on that call we decide and determine that it's a right fit and they're ready to go, then we just give them an onboarding email that gives them the 5 things that they need to do. And they're pretty simple. Okay. Read the terms and conditions, pay, and schedule a call with us. And it's pretty easy.
Okay. And that's through growyourshow.com. That's where somebody would go. Okay, super. Now, if someone's kind of chin rubbing, like I like to say, and they don't know if they really want to, dive into doing business with you or having a discovery call even, they can go to your podcast. And if they did, what could they expect to hear from your, and now you said you're doing sometimes 4 times a week. What can they expect to hear from that podcast?
Well, the first 6 episodes are a course. We decided, instead of trying to sell a course or build some funnel with a course, we wrote the course as episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to get you through podcasting. That would be the best resource for somebody who's new and not sure. And also you'll get to know us, but you'll also understand what the process is going to entail so that you can make an informed decision. We're 100 plus episodes into the show. So there's quite a bit of content. Every other episode is me interviewing a podcaster. I'd love to have you. Okay. I think we're going to have you, actually. Okay. But good. Me interviewing a podcaster and kind of identifying what their struggles were and what they learned through their journey. Yep. And then on the other episodes, it's me alone trying to be a little bit shorter episode where I'll just have questions as content, for example. where somebody will ask me a question. How do I get started? Somebody will ask, how do I monetize? How do I grow my podcast? Should I use YouTube? And so I'll just write that question down, kind of like you, when you get excited and you do your episode. And I'll actually go and just record an episode saying, hey, this person here asked me this question. I thought you might have the same question. So let me pour into you. So that's what they'll get. The first 6 episodes, though, I think anyone who's considering doing it should definitely go there first.
Okay. Well, thank you for telling me that. Yeah, I didn't realize the first 6 were like that, but yeah, folks, and it looks like that is your pattern. So you alternate between an interview and then, some advice. So, if there is, the podcasting genre is just blowing up as we know it right now. It's just, it's unbelievable what's going on. So if someone's out there, they've been talking to family members about it, how the drill, they've been talking to friends. Yeah, you should do it. You got a great presence. You should. What is the best piece of advice you could give them, Adam, right now as they sit there and contemplate if they want to launch off on something?
Probably the best advice is going to be centered around just getting it started. The thought is, if you know that you need a podcast, if your brother, your sister, your clients know that you need to have a show, then you definitely need to. And the longer we wait, we are missing out on a lot of opportunities for that potential to be even bigger. Now's an incredible time to start. And if we would have started, 10 years ago, it would have been an even better time to start, because there was fewer podcasts, and those podcasts that have been around for a while get a ton of listeners. Yeah. If we wait another, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 months from now, we won't get as much value as we would by dropping that podcast right away. Yeah. So I'd say just start. Don't overthink it. Yeah. Get to launching your show. Do it right, of course, but make sure that you start putting out that content.
Sure. No, a great advice. And I think you're so right. If you really feel like, and your family members, especially your customers or your friends, are saying, hey, you really need to do this, there's definitely, there's something to be said for that encouragement and to follow through on that. And, we hear some of the stories out there. I've heard so many people start in a closet, where a closet absorbs the sound with all the clothes. Just, get your microphone up there and you got a great soundproof room. I've heard all kinds of stories. But I wondered if you agree with me on this. I heard something not too long ago. I want to say it was a gentleman, Tim Pool, on his podcast. I'm not sure if I'm right on this, but it was that so many podcasters bail out before 100 episodes, and so many bail out of a rhythm. And I just wonder what your take was on that, because, I really felt like, it was important for us to at least me, I'm doing 250 and going to reassess where we are at 250. But one thing I am committed to is I come out every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. Central, and that is this consistency, one show a week. And just like any type of programming, it just comes out on that kind of level. And I've never missed a week since I started. So what do you feel about getting to 100 episodes or bailing out before? And what do you feel about that consistency factor?
Yeah, well, based on my feeling of people quitting, and I call it pod fade, basically fading before they really get to that place where it's going to truly grow. I think there's a lot of reasons why they bail. And one of the big ones is they didn't do enough marketing. They didn't grow they don't really have any listeners yet. And so they're thinking to themselves, well, this is pointless, right? Nobody's listening. I'm not monetizing. It's just costing me money. It's just costing me time. And I have basically a diary, not a podcast, because I'm the only one who listens. And it's interesting that a lot of people do that. And I think you said maybe getting past 100 episodes. I have no idea what the stat is for 100, but I will say that there's a couple of stats that have been floating around that have data to back them up, although they slightly contradict each other. One of them says 90% of podcasters don't make it past 6 episodes.
Oh my goodness.
The other one is that 90% of podcasters don't make it past 10 episodes.
Oh my goodness.
So I think I trust the one that's 6 episodes, but if we do there's a few things that we can do to have that rhythm, that cadence, that consistency, so that we never pod fade. And I'd like to share those with you.
Sure.
Here we go. If you don't want to be one of the 90% that only goes to 6 or 10 episodes, depending on which stat you listen to, then instead, why don't you record more than that number before you ever publish it? And instead of being behind the 8 ball and stressed out and recording one at a time, and it's Sunday night and you're like, hey, I said I'm up every Monday at 6 a.m. Central with an episode, so I've got to like stay up late recording one. Why don't you stay ahead of the game, record more than you need, and always have those shows ready? And if you've already got 10 episodes, you're going to be you're going to be part of the 10% automatically.
Yeah. Wow.
A couple other things that you can do is if you think to yourself, hey, I watched this movie once upon a time. It was a great movie. It was super inspirational. It's called Field of Dreams. And they said, if I just build it, they will come. I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to do marketing. All I have to do is have the podcast, and I'm automatically a multimillionaire, and I'm automatically super famous. Right. It doesn't really happen like that. Right. Apple understands that 90% of people quit before either 6 or 10 episodes. And so when you start your podcast, they don't say, holy cow, I've got to push this person in front of everybody. It just doesn't really work like that. If you do a few things, though, if you can actually go and get some social proof, do some of the work on your own, work with a team like mine who does all that marketing for you, if you can make sure that your podcast gets traction in the beginning, you actually will trigger some algorithms that makes Apple and Stitcher and iHeart and Spotify and some of these other platforms want to promote you because they'll see that you're already gaining traction. You're already well into the top 10%. And it's pretty simple. The main thing is you just want to you want people to do these 5 things. And this is what I'll leave with, but make sure that they do these 5 things.
Okay.
You've got to get new people to subscribe or follow your podcast. That's the first one. The second one is those people, not other people, need to download the episodes. We found that there are some platforms out there where people can give you like fake downloads, but they're not the subscribers and they're not actually listening. So it works against you. So just be really careful. You want to make sure that you get people to subscribe and then download, and then those people have to listen to the episodes. And those people that are listening actually are going to give that social proof where they're rating and doing a written review for the show. And finally, the fifth thing is that you want those people to keep coming back. And there's one way that my team helps market shows that could help anybody who wants to control those 5 things. And it's a private message campaign. It's reaching out to individuals, not within a salesy, quick, like, here's my link or anything like that, but get to know people and then eventually let them know about one of the podcast episodes, not your whole podcast, but one that will solve a problem. Like the first 6 episodes of my show takes you from beginning to end, for example. And if you're connecting with people and letting them know in an authentic way about your podcast, and if they say good things, say, hey, will you just copy and paste that and put that in a written review? And then finally, go back to them and just let them know, hey, I dropped a new episode. Would you like me to send it to you? Yeah. That if you're triggering those algorithms, actually, you're going to get ranked into the top percentages. This is one of the main things that I help people with. But that'll support you so that now you've got the only 2 things that all podcasters want. Those 2 things are, I want to leave a legacy. I want to make an impact. The second one is, I want to make money. I want to make an income. Yeah. If your podcast is costing you money and you have no listeners, you're going to pod fade no matter what. But if you trigger these algorithms and now you have lots of listeners and it's easy for you to monetize the show instead of spend money on the show, then you're going to be podcasting for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah. Great advice. Well, thank you for sharing that. No, I appreciate that. Folks, again, grow your own show. Adam Adams, AAA. Hey, so what excites you about every day? What's the most exciting thing when you get out of bed that you look forward to about a work day?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a different thing every day. Sometimes I am excited for going to CrossFit. Sometimes I'm excited to, because I know that I have an appointment with a certain one of my clients that they're excited because they're finally monetizing or whatever. It's going to change every day. On Wednesdays, I get excited because that's my day to record. I'll do like a bunch of podcasts. And if you're not excited to record those podcasts, they're not going to go well. So you just spend a couple of minutes practicing gratitude or praying or whatever it is that you do to kind of get ready. I like just practicing gratitude, where you just look and say, man, my business is awesome. I'm excited. I've got this person coming on the show. And so sometimes what gets me up and out of bed is, taking the reins and actually just practicing that gratitude to kind of like make my day start off right,
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, were you as a kid, were you like the kind of young boy who loved to just bound out of bed? You had endless energy right from the get-go, or were you kind of a slow starter?
Yeah, I stay up really late every day. So I'm like backwards, nocturnal, but, no, I'm not that much of a person that like, as I'm waking up, I want to just bound out of bed. It takes me some time.
Yeah.
I like to wake up slowly, to be honest with you. So I was never really that way as a kid, except on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Then it was 3 a.m. and I was like, Mom, Santa came.
Yeah.
But any other day, 364 days a year, I went to bed at midnight, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. and I'd wake up at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 a.m. So it's never really like that.
Yeah. I'm fascinated with that. Yeah. I was a bounder, I just, boom, I woke up, my eyes open, bam, I'm running, so but I like you, man. I love the days that we record. I mean, I get so jazzed up because I do, if I do monologues, I'll do 4 and, we'll come into the studio and do 4 in a shot. So I have all that preparation and build up and, so I'm with you there. If you, hallmarks, I don't know, what do I say that on my business tombstone, what would I want written on there from a business point of view? My hallmark. What's your hallmark if you had to communicate with the listeners today? What would you consider it to be?
I think I have an important job. I think by supporting other people to get their message out into the world and helping them to be able to get a strong listener base, I think that the thing that is probably going to be on my tombstone is going to be people that truly feel that working with us got them to a position where they're making so much more money than they ever believed possible, and they're doing it a lot easier than they expected. And I think that's going to be really the main thing is they became influencers because of what we did.
Okay. So you have a very servant's heart, more or less, to make sure that, you serve your customers in a way that they would be grateful to all your efforts.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. So, hey, if we take your life, I mean, I love AAA. I love how you explain that. And, and I got the feeling before we got on together that, you would be just a really comfortable in your own skin person and enjoy, a guy that enjoys life. So, and I think I'm right. So if you had to title a book, putting your life in a capsule on the front of a book, what would the title be?
That is a good question. I don't know. Maybe Mi Vida Loca.
So explain that for somebody who doesn't know Spanish.
Yeah, it just means my crazy life.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I've been through some things and had some experiences that just not everybody has.
Yeah.
And growing up on a polygamous colony, for an example.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
pretty rare.
Sure.
That's it's not a very common thing. So I would say, like, there was a time when I was in like middle school, and I said to my coach that I was going to set 6 school records. So and he said to me that that's not possible. He's basically like, that's not even possible. Any one meet that you go to you can only compete in 4 things. And he goes, most people only compete in 1 or 2. And so for me, my thought was, there's a way. At one meet, I might do pole vaulting. At a different meet, I might do shot put. At a different meet, I might do discus, and then the 100. And there's always a way. So I ended up setting 7 school records that year, right? And it's just like, it's something that had never happened before, and just kind of blew him away. And those are the type of like experiences that I've gone through my life, writing a symphony when I was in grade school, so that we could, it was just like, just different things, just odd things. Yeah. And I'm also, I've got a little bit of, which is probably why I was able to do the symphony, I've got a little bit of autism. So I'm on the spectrum. I'm a little bit autistic. So at any rate, there's just like all these random things that you might hear about some of them, but you don't usually find it all in one place. And so I think writing the book would be fun. I don't know the title, but Mi Vida Loca would be a fun title.
Yeah, well, very cool. Well, I've always said, if you were an author and you decided to write a chapter on families, and you just went to any street in any town, in any county, in any state, and you just picked that street and you knocked on the first house and you say, hey, I'm writing a book, can I get a chapter on your family? You know, by the time you got through the neighborhood, you'd have a best-selling book every single time, because I'm convinced that, you know, we can't make up what happens to us in life. You know, the stories that we have, the experiences we collect and that we have been through blow away any imagination anywhere, you know, and I think that's the fascinating part. And what I like about the podcast community, you know, and just a closing question kind of, but in that podcasting community, what I really love, and you used the term earlier, was authentic, that transparent, let's say, that genuineness, but we get to let people inside our lives and know, like I'll tell people I'm a recovering alcoholic. You know, I've spent 14 years of my life mired in drug usage and alcohol usage. And, there's a lot of things, garbage that came with that, but I'm the person today that I am because of a lot of those things I've been through. And, you know, but we get to let people in. And I find something fascinating about that. The more people like us that let people in, because then they can really relate. I don't know. Do you agree? They can really relate and say, you know what, that guy, he's being honest with me, you know?
Yeah, I feel like, well, if you take Gary Vaynerchuk, sure. Some people have heard of him. I started following him because I love wine. I'm a big wine fan. But Gary V, he's a marketer, and he's been doing YouTube for a long time. He's gotten pretty successful. One of the main things that he says is like, you won't be, your business won't be running in 2022 if you're not on social media and have a thought leadership platform like a book or a podcast. So he feels pretty strongly that way. And I've seen it directly impact people's businesses to be themselves on their podcast or on their social media. Like for me, I love mountain biking. I love CrossFit. I love wine. So I will mention those things about me, my kids. And what's interesting is like there's this one person that ended up putting several $1 million with my company simply because we connected, because I shared that thing about me, that vulnerability, that different thing about me. And so just to kind of answer and respond to your question, I 100% believe that every person out there has dozens of choices to go with. They're going to go with the person that they can identify with.
Right.
It's we need eyeballs and smiles. We need to be able to look at people's faces and get to know them if we're going to start doing business with them. And that's only going to be found if we can be who we really, truly are. It doesn't matter that I'm not super eloquent. It doesn't matter that I, am on the autism spectrum or whatever it is. Because if I can just be me, who I am, there's a lot of people that are going to say, that's the person that I want to work with.
Right.
I could work with a lot of podcast agencies, for example, but I like Adam. I get him. I resonate with him. I want to support him. He seems like a good guy. So whoever is listening, and if you're thinking about growing a business, you need to do those things. You need to be who you are, or else those people are going to go to somebody else. You're going to lose business. This is the way that the world is going. And now's the time. And nobody's going to truly know you, like you, or trust you if you're not who you say you are.
And I think there's something really freeing about that as the person. When I say those types of things about my background, when I drag some of that, ugly into the conversation, that's just, I think it's giving a sense of comfort to people that, this guy I can relate to this guy because he's been there. He's not afraid to talk about it, or I feel like I can't talk about it, or, I shouldn't talk about it. And, I've often thought, if I was a politician, and somebody said, so did you really do this or that, the other thing? Yeah, I did. I mean, what are you going to say? What am I going to do? Hide behind it? I mean, that's what made me me. And, it was wrong. It was bad. But, I learned from it. And, I wouldn't be here today. So I just think that the fun part of this podcast community as it grows is that authenticity, that relatability, that transparency, that connectiveness with the authentic messaging that's coming out, right? I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah.
And I get it from listening to your shows. You're just honest. You're just out there. And no, it's very, it's very, you got to get a nice program going. So again, folks, I'm going to let you shout out your URLs and how people get in touch with you, but it's growyourshow.com is how you would find Adam, AAA, if you will. And on Apple, it's, again, if you could just kind of walk them through how they would find you there.
Yeah, just type in the podcast on podcasting. Okay. Or, you could literally just put in Adam Adams. Yep. Put in Adam Adams, the podcast show will come up anyway. Yeah. But and you can just follow or subscribe there. And definitely, if you are in the beginning stages, you'll get a ton by listening from episodes 1 through 6.
Great. Well, awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time today. And man, we have a little thing at the end of every show because I'm a rock and roller. I grew up, just loving it. I mean, I am probably one of the best steering wheel drummers in the world on my car. Oh yeah,
it's impressive.
I mean, seriously, no, I'm just kidding. But if if you see that crazy guy, what's that old man over there? Jamming out to Led Zeppelin, the Immigrant Song on his car steering wheel. But man, roll the windows down, put some music in, tank of gas, and I'm flying, and I love it, and I always have. And so at the end of every show, we just ask everybody to kind of dip back in their lives. What was an important rock and roll tune? What was an important song to you that, might be lost in the shuffle, didn't get a lot of airplay, but it's important to you? So I asked you for one, gave me a great answer, but go ahead and tell everybody what your selection would be.
Well, as a musician, I love so many pieces of music that are out there. But the one that I thought of when answering that question was Matis Yahu, One Day. Matis Yahu's a really cool guy. He has this vibe of very much of his music is like reggae style. Yeah. But he's got this one song that it seems like not very many people have heard or know of. But it's called One Day, and it's just a huge, awesome message. It's a powerful song with great chord progressions. It's really like the kind that makes you want to just start belting out, maybe not drumming necessarily, but you want to scream it to the top of your lungs. One of the parts of the lyrics of that song is, one day we'll all be free and proud to be under the same sun, singing songs of freedom. Yeah. And just powerful. I mean, I even feel choked up just saying it now, but I think that it's a really good song, and if anybody hasn't heard it, they should check it out.
Oh my gosh! Well, no, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, he is a really interesting guy. Now, I'm a Jersey guy, like Vanderchuck. I'm from Jersey, and you know, he's Westchester, Pennsylvania, so he's right across the kind of Philly suburbs, South Philly. And this is where I forget his first name or real name. Pete, is it Peter? I want to say.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know his real name.
I forget. But anyway, he grew up there and went to White Plains, scooted around and ended up, I believe, going out to, I want to say went out to Utah, if I'm not mistaken. But at any rate, then he went back to New York City and tried to, you know, get his recording thing going on. And when we looked at all of his, you know, top 40 hits and things he did, you know, One Day didn't come up. But the link you sent me from YouTube, 88 million views. I mean, wow. I mean, the only thing I've ever seen that has more views than that musically would be an AC/DC tune. I mean, that blew me away, and it really is a cool song. Great lyrics, and you know, he bills himself as a Jewish reggae kind of guy, you know. So he's got, you know, he's a Jewish guy, but he's got this reggae appeal to him. So no, very entertaining. Thank you for sharing that, folks. You're going to see that up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen in the form of a card. So we put all of our Lost in the Shuffle tracks up there in the form of a card. You click onto it, it'll take you right to this video. So we'll have that in the show notes, as well as Adam's all his contact information as well. Now, Adam, is there anything I forgot to ask you? Is there anything you'd like to just expound on that I forgot to ask?
No, honestly, I had a lot of fun, and you got even deeper than I expected. So I appreciate it, and I think that it was a really valuable meeting.
Well, always have fun meeting folks, and if I'm ever out there, I would certainly look forward to hanging out with you for a little bit. Don't mountain bike, but I am entering my 36,000th mile of running. So I've been running for 42 years, and so
wow.
You know, it's really not that, you know, 18 miles a week if you really break it down. But you know, I've had some injury times, this, that, and the other. But what blows me away is it's like running from New York City to LA and back to New York 6.5 times. So it's 1.5 times around the world, but that's what 42 years kind of piles up, and I love it. I don't do headphones. I love hearing, smelling, feeling nature. I've probably saved the world 3 times and forgot how. You know, on a run, you're like, oh, the endorphins are kicking in. Now I got it. Then you get home, and it's like you're at the keyboard going, wait, what did you know, so anyway, it's a ton of fun, and yeah, I would love to be on your show sometime. And so, listen, thank you so much for reaching out to me, and thank you so much for you know, taking your time to share with folks, and certainly wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy New Year. And we're taping, folks, before Christmas, even though this show is going to air on January 20th. So just to give some of those pod faders some idea, yeah, get ahead of yourself. It's always good, you know.
There you go.
But at any rate, we'll sign off. And guys, as we always say here, we are all about improve. How do you improve the results? You improve the how you do business. That's our focus here at SimpleBiz360. And, you know, hey, there's so many areas and ways to find your own information. Start doing your own research about questions you have in life. You know, be a truth teller. We love truth tellers. There's not enough of them in the world. Turn cable and TV news off. It just, you know, look for the information yourself. Hey, the Bible is full of great stories. We encourage you to open that up. We encourage you to pray. And like always, we say, love the Lord God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And everybody have a great day. Adam, thank you. We will see you guys in 168 hours. All right, take care, man. See you later, Adam.